Living in a van or car compared to living in an RV in Florida. That's what I want to talk about in this video because I've made some interesting observations visiting Florida for several years and now living in Florida inside my car. I live out of my car, my Jeep Renegade. I see a lot of people living out of their vans, and I see a lot of people living out of RVs. Some people traveling around the world, and they make a stop in Florida in the winter. Some people living full time in their vehicle, whether it's a van or RV. And what I'm here to tell you is, in Florida specifically, your biggest challenge in RV living is the restriction on the vacancy in campgrounds and the campsites available depending on the size of your RV. The value of living in a van or car compared to an RV is that you have more vacancies with regards to campgrounds and campsites that your vehicle and that you can access, being that you are a primitive camper. When you live out of your van or car, you're considered a primitive tent camper. Many campgrounds don't even require that you set up a tent, but you are classified as a tent camper. But tent sites, primitive sites, meaning they don't have electrical hookup, they don't have water, they don't have sewer, they're primitive. Those sites are usually more available even in the winter when Florida is its most crowded. So primitive sites are a little bit more available because not too many people want to camp without hookups. Most people have an RV. So if you have an RV, the value of RV is you have utility hookups. You have electric, water, shower, all those things. So you want to use it. And what's the sense of buying an RV if you're not going to use the hookups? That's really the biggest asset of it. So all those people in that RV pool, they're all fighting for a limited number of spots at campgrounds. And so they have two options. Either they're going to pay a premium cost to get a campsite, or they're not going to have a campsite because there's less available. And even when there are some available, depending on the size of your RV, you have to evaluate, can your RV fit at that campsite? You know, many times when I visited campgrounds, there may be one or two sites open, and the reason those specific campsites are open because they're in a corner and they're hard to back into. They're at an angle. The campsite, the landing pad is not too big. A lot of RVs couldn't fit in there, couldn't park in there. And so when you live in a van or car, you can park at just about any campsite. You could park anywhere. And that's value. And that makes your life easier and simpler, especially dealing with the logistics of Florida, which is in the winter, being that it's such a tourism magnet. In the winter, campsites are hard to come by. But when you live in a van or car, there's more campsites available to you, whether free campsites or parking. You can fit into every campsite. And also when you do free urban boondocking, meaning you park at a Walmart or Crackle Barrel or something like that, there's not as many eyes on you. Meaning that when you have an RV and you're in a parking lot of Starbucks or Walmart, eyes are on you because you are a abnormally big vehicle. Okay, you can park there for some period of time, but you're abnormal. There's somewhat of a sore thumb aspect that you stick out. And in some areas in Florida, and even in the country, because I've traveled up and down the East Coast of America, they don't allow RV parking. Whether it's by the beach or whether it's in parking lots, there's some places that there's more restrictions on parking and on campsites when you have an RV. You have a bigger than normal vehicle, and there's some restrictions around that depending on the town and the municipality codes. And so that's restrictions, less availability. And that's why, again, I go back to car or van living. If you're willing to deal with primitive living, meaning you live without electrical hookups, sewer, or water, but if there was a campsite available with hookups and you wanted to run an extension cord into your car, you could still utilize electric. You just have more flexibility. And I say it on this channel so many times, the value of living in your car or van is you have the most flexibility just about you can have in this world, because you have a car, you have a mobile means of transportation, of independence, of a way to make money and go to a job, and you also have a shelter, and you also could bring some amenities into the car with an extension cord of electrical hookup if you had amenities, etc. But you don't have the restrictions of an RV, of fitting them in a campsite, of having a campsite available, and of not sticking out and having public parking restrictions of an RV. So the flexibility, the availability of campsites, of areas to park, of not sticking out when you live in a car or van, as long as you carry yourself respectable and you abide by the laws and you keep your area neat, you know, pretty much no one's going to tell that you're any different car in the parking lot or anywhere else. So you're just living life, and it's a lot more simpler. You know, the RV, again, has some value where you can have the electric, water, and sewer hookup, but that comes at a cost, and it also comes at a frustration of, if you have that amenity, you're going to want to fight for a campsite that allows you to use those amenities. And for me in Florida, campsites are very crowded in the winter, and it's just a fight I'm not worth fighting. Not worth fighting for me at this point in my life, at this season. And so I conclude, as I evaluate van living versus RV living, specifically in Florida, being that there's such a premium for RV campsites, and they can cost a lot, there's less of them, and there's more abundance, there's more vacancy, there's more availability in primitive tent camping and places to park that allows you to see and enjoy Florida better, versus if you were driving around even in Class B. You know, you may still be able to go a lot of places, but there's a little bit less flexibility. Is there a right or wrong answer? No. I mean, in life, you should do whatever you want, as long as what you're doing is not hurting anyone. But these are my observations in the value of living in a van or car, is that you just have more flexibility. You have more options. You have less restrictions. You have more availability, and that's makes for less resistance. Less resistance means, to me, a hopefully easier, simpler life. At this point, I think that's best for me. And that's what I want to share with you. And I appreciate if you guys like these videos. Click the thumbs up button. Also, I am an Amazon affiliate now. You can look in the description, and you could click the link and shop on Amazon. And I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone who supports the videos. And thank you. My observation of car living versus RV living in Florida.